welcome to my podcast, TJ Wilk, The Naked Truth, how I went from fashion model to booking 20 movies in 1 year. In this fourth episode, I'm going to talk about something very important that everyone, I think, should learn something from, and I hope you will. And it's something that we all struggle with, motivation. Where do we find it and how do we keep it? I've spoken to a lot of successful people about this over the years that have achieved amazing things in life and how hard it is for them to stay motivated. And even for myself, when I was a fashion model, I worked at the highest level there could possibly be, where I'm working with supermodels, booking the biggest campaigns in the world, walking the runway for the biggest designers. I was on a hit TV show for 3 seasons that was all about the modeling industry that aired in 67 countries. I've done the red carpets. I've signed the autographs. I've been paid to go to nightclubs. I've gotten sponsorships from clothing brands and free stuff. Man, it's been a wild ride over the years. And I can tell you, when you reach a certain level of success, you sort of are stuck with this, well, what's next kind of feeling. And it's a weird feeling because you work so hard for over the years, and you struggle and you fail and you fall on your face. But you get back up and you eventually achieve the thing, but then you're sort of stuck with this, well, now what kind of thing. And it's weird when that happens. It's weird because you don't necessarily lose sight of the struggle, but you sort of miss it in a way because now you've achieved this level that you thought was going to be amazing, and it is amazing. But it's like, okay, well, what's next? What do I do now? I've done everything I've wanted to do, and I've gone far and beyond what I thought was possible. So what now? I don't know. It's a weird feeling. So I want to discuss motivation for those of you that have gotten to that point, and I also want to discuss even more importantly than that is getting motivated. How do we find the motivation? Because when I started out in this business, working in the entertainment business, especially as a model, I had no idea how I was going to achieve anything. I didn't know how I was going to get an agent. I didn't know how I was going to get my picture taken. I didn't know how to take a good picture. I didn't even know what a good picture was. I just knew that when I saw something that excited me and motivated me, that's the thing I wanted to do. And that's where it starts. That's where motivation starts, is seeing something, hearing something, being a part of something that excites you, being in an environment, a group of people or a surrounding of some sort that motivates you, that gets you this feeling of, oh wow, I want to do more of this, or I want to be the best at this, or I want to be like that person, doing what they're doing. Whatever it is, it starts with seeing or hearing something, or a thought of your own. Like you just automatically, like a light bulb goes on and says, you know what, I want to be this thing. I want to try this thing. And then you hopefully will go out and do it, right? You begin the journey of getting to that level that you wanted to reach, or that thing you wanted to do. So the beginning part of motivation, and as adults, I understand there's a lot of people out there, and I've been a part of this group of people until I decided I wasn't going to be anymore. The group of people where you are miserable doing a job that you don't want to do, making a living doing something that you hate, that you do not enjoy. Granted, it may pay the bills, but it's a job that it brings you zero joy, and you sort of feel stuck, right? You feel obligated to this thing. But the fact is, ladies and gentlemen, you're not obligated to stick with any kind of job. You have the choice to walk away and start over. That's the beauty of life. We're given one life on this planet, one life. And it's up to us to make the decisions that are going to make the best of our own lives, to make our journey from start to finish to be as enjoyable and as fun and as positive and as successful and as pleasant and hopefully as healthy as possible. So, and that all leads to choices that we make along the way. So what you do is you basically write out on a piece of paper, and I like writing things out because it's something that you can physically look at, and it's not lost in your mind. Because if you just have it in your mind, it's jumbled there, and there's lots of other things that come in your mind, and you eventually forget it. But if you look back at it, you have it as a reference. It's right there in front of you, and you won't forget it because it's right there. So what I do, and what I've done, is I literally have written out everything in my life, dating back to as young as I can remember, that brought me happiness and joy. It starts there. It's simple as that. The things that I remember reflecting on, that I have written down that brought me so much joy. One of the very first memories I have of bringing me joy is watching my dad play drums in the basement. He had this drum set, and I loved watching the cymbals move when he'd hit them, and I love the sound that they make and the sound of the drums. Each drum has a different tone because of the way they're tuned: high, middle, low. And you got the snare drum, and you got the hi-hats, the little two cymbals that close, open and close, and you got the cymbals up here. What I loved also was watching my dad's facial expressions when he would play, because he's so into it. He'd make these hilarious faces. And so that's something that I wrote down is drums. So whenever I feel like I'm going through a hard time in my life, or I'm stuck with something, I would go to the Guitar Center. If I didn't have my own drum set handy, I would go to Guitar Center. I'd make the effort to get in my car and drive over to a Guitar Center or a music store and just rock out on the drums for 10, 15, 20 minutes. Just living out your creative imagination and going to a place where you can do that is like so good for you. If you play guitar, the guitar. If you're a singer, you can try the microphones. If you're a piano player, they let you sit down and play the keyboards or the pianos. If you're a DJ, you can try the equipment. I mean, it's good for you emotionally, and it will motivate you to go do something fun or make a change in your life. And so for me, drums is one thing. And then when I was a kid, I loved playing with Legos. So I wrote down playing with Legos, my Matchbox cars, hanging out with my brother. I wanted to be like my older brother. He was 8 years older than me. And I loved playing with his Matchbox cars.
On the side of the wing.
Yeah.
It only says that on one side of the car.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know that. And they do that because if you put it on the opposite side of the car, it's facing the wrong direction.
Oldsmobile.
But, I have all these hilarious memories of things that I loved doing.
I don't even know if I want to touch him, Michaela. Have these been worn by someone else?
They don't look new.
Yeah, they look like they're two of my cars.
Two of his own cars.
They obviously have seen better days.
You write down these things that make you happy and that are funny and that brought you so much joy, and it automatically changes your mental state, right? You go from depressed to, oh my God, my life sucks, what am I doing, to, oh my God, this is hilarious, this is my life, these are the things I experienced. And then what you do is that you write out all these things that make you so happy, things that you loved doing, not just the things that make you happy, but things that you physically loved doing and things that you played with. And then I write down all the things I love doing now. Everything. Riding roller coasters, going to the movies, going to the toy section of the store, which I do all the time whenever my girlfriend and I have to go to a store. The first thing I'm looking for is the toy section. I'm literally a 9-year-old boy in a grown man's body. That will never leave me. But I write down all these things that make me truly happy today, that I love doing. And then I have a list of things that I want to do that I haven't done yet. And that is a motivator. Just right there, just the things I haven't done yet that I want to do. That will motivate you to work harder, to figure out a way to do it. It changes your mentality of your life, your path, where you're going to go, what you're going to do. You really start to strategize things when you really take these things seriously. So I strongly encourage you guys out there, when you're looking for motivation, start with the things that used to bring you happiness and joy, the things you used to love doing. And then you, again, write down things that make you happy now that you love doing. And then sort of see how one thing led to the other. Just think about it. Like, okay, how did I go from enjoying playing Legos to now being an architect, or playing Legos to being an actor, or being, a doctor? Like, somehow, some way, whatever it was, the toys you used to play with as a kid and the way you used to behave when you were a child somehow correlate in one way or another to the things that you're doing now. And you got to sort of play with the psychological reasoning behind of, like, why, like, how did that happen? And it's really fun to sort of figure it out as an adult, because you're learning more about yourself simply by asking these questions. And by the way, it's just you being with yourself. You don't have to answer any of this to anybody else. No one has to look at this list. So be as honest and as truthful and as raw as you possibly can be with yourself on this, making this list. Same with the things that you're doing now. Be honest about it. Again, this is just a conversation with yourself, finding the motivation and keeping it. That's all about what works for you. This is not to make anybody else happy. This is to make you happy and to make you more motivated so that you achieve the things you want to achieve in life faster, even improving your lifestyle and improving just your all-around energy and your mood and just your motivation, to achieve great things. That's what this is all about. So you want to write all this stuff down and be as honest as you possibly can be. The other thing that you can do is write in a journal, not just the things that you love to do, but the things that are happening in your life now. Like, oh my gosh, I had a bad dream this last night or a couple nights ago. I can't get it out of my head. So this is what the dream was about. This is what I think it means. Or, oh my gosh, I'm afraid to try this one thing, or there's this girl or there's this guy that I have a huge crush on. How the heck am I going to approach them? And you write down in your journal how you think you like to approach them. A journal is really a conversation with yourself, and no one's going to read it. This is just for you. So it's another like opportunity for you to be completely honest with yourself, as raw and as honest as you want, as rated XXXXX as you want. And you should be, because it's you with yourself. And when you be honest with yourself, you're going to come to realize how much more of yourself you know and accept. And that's just by loving and accepting yourself even more and falling in love with who you are as a person. And you can literally look in the mirror and be genuinely honest and say, I love you. I'm in love with who you are. That's the greatest thing, one of the greatest things, because you are officially a whole person, feeling whole, where you are accepting of everything that you are and who you are. And that is an amazing, beautiful thing to carry in the real world, because now you're in a positive state and you're going to be so much more happy. It's going to bring an energy into your life that you may not have experienced before. So I encourage you to journal and write down very specific things that are provocative, that play out in your mind, that happen right then and there, or things that you constantly think about that you don't share with anybody, that you would never share, including with your best friend. That's how honest you need to be in your journal. And then, of course, plotting out the things you want to do. Now, when it comes to, once you're motivated to get to the things that you want to do, staying motivated, keeping the motivation is a whole other animal. That's a whole other challenge, if you will. And one thing that I have found for myself, and this is just my own experience, and thing that I would suggest maybe you try, is when you're in the middle of something and you're motivated, but it's hard now, because now you're like in the thick of the thing that you're trying to achieve, and there's obstacles, and there's things that stop you, or seem to stop you, or scare you, frighten you, or make you angry, and it discourages you, depresses you. And that tends to be like a failure, something that like a failure, where you've tried something that you thought was going to work and it didn't, but then you want to give up. I strongly encourage you to not give up. It just means you got to try a different strategy, and you got to figure out what that strategy is. And that, again, may require you to write down the strategy, a new strategy, within a reasonable timeline of to get that strategy done. And if it doesn't work, all right, you've now matured into another level of, okay, this time didn't work either, so let's figure out another way. And it's just, I think sometimes those challenges of hearing the word no can motivate you to get to a place where you eventually get the yes. And that comes with self-confidence. And that's where I'm talking about, when you're able to look in the mirror and say, I love you, I'm in love with who you are, you're a great person, you can do this, you're worthy, you're a champion because you think like a champion, you work hard like a champion, I know you can be a champion, just keep going. You can say that stuff in the mirror. The word no is not going to be a no, it's going to be a not yet. And then you can move on and then try the new thing, and then before you know it, you're going to get the yes, and then boom, success. Wonderful. And then you move to the next thing, whatever the next thing is, right? So to find the motivation is all these things. But then to keep the motivation, it's you having that conversation with yourself when you feel that it's kind of going away, that you're worthy, you're successful, and you got to say it to yourself in the mirror. But also, I would encourage you to start watching footage because everything's on YouTube, everything's on the internet. You can find the greatest of the greatest of the greatest doing what they do. It can be in the subject matter or category that you want to achieve, and it can also be outside of it, just watching something incredible, something amazing that will just strike something in you to want to try again or change something, or motivate you to just completely change your thought process on something, and maybe you want to do something else completely different, whatever it is, right? The motivation will lead to anything. It's insane what motivation can do. But as an example, so I was in this acting class a couple of years ago that I was not doing well in at all, because my teacher, as wise and as amazing of a person as he was, he was very scary to me. He was an older guy, very wise, but not approachable, and I didn't feel safe and comfortable in the environment to just work off of my partner on stage moment to moment using my very first instinct. And that's what great acting is. It's living truthfully under the imaginary or given circumstances. That's the definition of good acting. Living truthfully in the imaginary or given circumstances. And that requires you, as an actor, to really believe your circumstances so much so, and know your text so well, like you know your name, that you don't think about the text, that you don't even think about the circumstances. You're so focused on that person and their behavior and what they're giving you that you truthfully respond with your first instinct. I think going to the zoo and watching animals on television or children on television is the greatest thing an actor can ever do, to study acting. They're not acting, they're behaving. And that's great acting. Great acting is behaving. Again, living truthfully in the imaginary or given circumstances, great acting. But these animals in the zoo or on television, or these kids on television, they're just behaving. They are reacting. And that's great acting, is just simply reacting. Something forces you to do something, to move or to look or to make an expression or to respond in a certain way, right? That is very interesting. I think Lassie is the greatest actor in television and in movie history. Lassie, the dog. The next greatest actor, in my opinion, is probably Marlon Brando, because he was like an animal. You never knew what that guy was going to do next. You never knew. He was just very animalistic. It's just amazing to watch his early work on screen, especially in Streetcar Named Desire. If you haven't watched that movie, watch Streetcar Named Desire. Wow, I mean, he is like a wild animal. You watch him in On the Waterfront. Just any of his movies, he's just so amazing. But these are things that motivate me, right? I love watching animals and young children do hilarious stuff, and they're just behaving. They're just doing stuff. And I want to be that. I want to be that entertaining as an actor. I want to take my audience on this journey of believing my circumstances so much so that they don't look at their watch to see what time it is. They're not thinking about their kids or their family life or their job that they hate so much or they love, or the car they drive or the responsibilities they have to go back to once the movie's over. I want them to be so involved in the story that they're not even looking at the popcorn tub in their hand. They're focused on the screen, and they're watching me, and they're living out what I'm behaving. They feel everything that I'm feeling. That to me is that's great acting, when you're able to have your audience so engaged in that moment. And that's the kind of actor that I want to be. And that motivates me, is knowing that I can move an audience with that much power, based on my ability to just be so honest and open. And that comes with practice. It comes with training in my acting class, putting in that hard work. And that's motivating for me. But, to keep the motivation going, I love watching kids and animals. But I also love watching the great athletes do what they do. One thing that I did for myself that I didn't realize was going to be a big motivator was watching Michael Jordan. I bought this DVD collection a long time ago of Michael Jordan when he played for the Chicago Bulls and all their great games. And I'm watching these guys play, and I didn't realize it until I realized it. But these guys, they're just doing what they do. They're just instinctively dribbling the ball, and they see something over here, but they're looking over here, and they fake over this way, and they pass the ball that way because that's where the guy that's open is, and he scores a three-pointer. And then you see Michael Jordan, he's driving to the basketball hoop, and there's like four guys in his way, and he maneuvers the ball all around them. He's just instinctively doing this. He didn't think about this before he went into the thing. He just is making his way. He's reacting to the action that's happening towards him to make that basket. And I realized that's what great acting is too. It's just reacting to everything that's happening around you. These guys are a team, but they are literally reacting to each other. And that's freaking amazing to watch. That's why sports is so compelling, is because it's almost like acting. You're watching people behave and react and do amazing stuff that, we as normal human beings probably cannot do. They're just working at such a high level. Forget the paycheck, but the high level of talent and ability that these people have is why we're so entertained by it. And it can be so motivating in our own personal lives to watch stuff like that. I love watching like the Olympic champions, the replays on YouTube of the great track and field runners and the great gymnasts and the great springboard divers. And, I love even watching some of the great MMA fighters from the early days do what they do, how skilled they are, and just how they're reacting to each other. It's so amazing to watch all that stuff. And I encourage you guys to do that too. Whatever it is you're trying to achieve, just watch great people do great things. It's going to motivate you and keep you motivated. Stay away from the negative stuff. I know there's a lot of negative stuff on YouTube and on Instagram and Facebook. And when I realize I'm in that moment, I get out of it right away. And I start watching stuff that makes me happy. I also loved watching BMX, these guys that are on the pavement doing these tricks on their bikes. Man, that stuff's so amazing to watch. If you guys haven't watched that stuff, it's called Flatland, BMX Flatland. Watch this stuff. It's like ballet. It's a dance, and they're using a bike to do all these amazing tricks, and it's like it's a part of their body. It's another limb on their body, their bike, to do what they're doing, and it's so complicated, and it's literally a dance that they do. And they do, and the whole point of what they're doing is to do all these tricks without their feet or their hands touching the ground, where they make a mistake and they have to balance the bike so they don't fall off the bike. They're doing incredible stuff. And just to watch that and watch that beautiful dance they do with this bike is just so amazing, to take an object like that and be so creative and have that much control and balance over your body and over an object. It just fascinates me. And again, it goes back into my acting, where you are literally behaving and reacting with your first impulse with this bike and the pavement and the environment around you. You're adapting to it, and you just have to behave and make it work for yourself. And that's why I watch this stuff. So I love watching the old movies, of course, watching the great actors of our time and before, doing their great scenes in their great movies and great stage plays that are available on YouTube. I love watching some of the great actors do stage work. My mind is jumbled right now with some of the great names that are fantastic film actors that started out on stage. Ultimately, that's what I am. I'm a stage actor first. That's where I started. I started out on the stage. I started out in an acting class, and then I transitioned into making movies. And the reason why a lot of actors transition out of theater into film is because film pays more money. It provides a much better source of income to provide and make a living and live a very comfortable lifestyle. Being a stage actor doesn't unfortunately bring nearly enough money for people to pay their bills and go on vacations and provide for their families, unless you're like a big Broadway star, which is, that's even harder to do, I think, than becoming a movie star, is being a Broadway star where you're going to make millions of dollars. It basically doesn't happen. It's much easier to be a millionaire as a TV and film star than it is a Broadway star. So that's why a lot of people transition out of theater and work in film and movies. But, I love going back to the stage and watching people that I admire that came from theater do their theater work. It's really fascinating. And I love how they have some of that stuff on YouTube and the interviews. I love watching interviews of the great actors that I admire talking about their craft and who they worked with and who they look up to and their experience on a particular movie set, the advice they give actors when it comes to auditioning or being rejected or becoming famous. What's the healthy ways to get through it. These are motivating things for myself that keep me motivated, because there's a lot of times where I get discouraged. There's a lot of acting jobs that I really wanted that I didn't get, especially big ones that I came very close to, that I did not get, that would have changed my life, that would have changed the course and direction of my entire life. It's discouraging when you don't get those opportunities that you thought you were going to get, and you get down on yourself. So one thing that I like to do to get myself out of that very quickly is watch great stuff that motivate me and get me back into that positive headspace. But I'll also look back on the amazing things that I consider amazing for myself that I've done in my own life. I look back at my modeling career. I worked with Tom Cruise, Elizabeth Taylor, like the biggest names in Hollywood. And, I look at that and say, wow, I did that. I actually did that. I left college, a full ride scholarship in college. I was in school to be a physical therapist. I gave all that up. I was training for the 2000 Olympics to be a springboard diver. I was 17th in the country. It's what paid for my education in college. And I literally walked away from all of that with $300 in my pocket, a car, and a dream to just come out to LA and be a successful model. And it all started with my very first motivator, Mark Wahlberg, when he did the Calvin Klein campaign with Kate Moss. His physique, those images, the brand, it just motivated me so much that I gave up a full ride scholarship in college to make a great living as a physical therapist, to just up and leave. That's how powerful motivation can be. And when you decide to go after something that strongly, the motivation's so strong. And believe me, it did not happen overnight. It took me a good 5 years before I finally broke through and started booking some really amazing work. It took a lot of hours, a lot of rejection, a lot of mistakes made, a lot of relationship building to finally get the opportunities that I got to finally prove myself and work with the best of the best. And when it happened, that's when it really happened quickly. Those first 5 years was brutal, but I learned so much, and it's taught me so much. And because of those hard 5 years of struggle, I know this business in and out. I have such a knowledge, and I'm grateful for those people that said no, because they taught me a valuable lesson in how to deal with rejection and how to teach, and sort of giving me an opportunity to struggle through it and figure it out and learn another way through it. And I'm taking a bad experience and flipping it into a positive experience because of what it taught me. And I'm motivated by that, by the rejection. The motivation can come from rejection too. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to show you. One of these days, I'm going to break through and I'm going to show you that I belong here, that I deserve this success. These are things that you can carry with you. And they could be the littlest things. They don't have to be like, where in my case, where I was able to break through and I was on the A-list of models for a while doing great stuff, the best of the best stuff, getting paid the best money and traveling to the best cities, doing the best stuff for the best designers, the best photographers, whatever. But I'm talking about the little things in life that matter too. The little wins that are big wins, where I was in Little League, all right, and I hit my first ball off the tee, and I made it to first base. I wasn't thrown out. That's a big win. And then you make it to the second base, and then you make it to third base, then eventually you score a run for your team. I mean, these are like big things that matter, that can build your self-confidence and get you the courage to break through and do the next big thing. And also, when you are brave, other people notice. And they notice, and they will comment, and they will contact you in some form, whether it's just an encouragement, like, "Hey man, I saw what you did. That was pretty great, man. That was really great." And you hear that, and that those words of encouragement that come from other people that notice that you did not expect to notice, that motivates you. And it's really because of the decision you initially made to do the thing, to try the thing, to go after it. And the motivation has to start from somewhere. And again, I just encourage you guys to write it all out. Write everything out that makes you happy, that brings you joy, the things you used to love doing when you were a kid. And as an adult, there's no such thing as you're too old. Throw that out the window. Go to the toy store. Go to eBay and buy the thing you used to love when you were a child and put it, on your desk or next to your bed or in your car or in your bathroom or in your kitchen or on your refrigerator or wherever you want. This is for you. This is to make yourself happy, to get you motivated and to keep that joy in your life, and to look back on the wonderful memories that you may have had with this object or this moment in time or this film you used to watch. I still watch the old classic Disney movies that are animated, or the old classic, live action movies from the Disney 60s era, 50s, 60s era, that are hilarious, silly kid movies, but they bring me so much joy. And by the way, they're freaking great actors that are doing this stuff that came from theater. And the actors that are doing the voiceover work for all the cartoon characters, for, Aladdin and Sleeping Beauty, if you actually listen to them, you believe what they're saying because they're so good at the voiceover work, even though it's an animated picture. The way they're delivering their lines, it's the behavior. Anybody could say the lines, but it's the way they say them that make the movie fascinating and that much more enjoyable. And so I study and pay attention to that stuff too. That motivates me to watch those movies and listen to those voiceover actors. It's just, I'm telling you, you can find your motivation anywhere. And just I'm encouraging all of you guys to just tap in to the things you used to love doing when you were a kid. You will not regret it. It will keep you going. It'll make you happier. It will motivate you, and you'll just be in a much more positive headspace as you go on through life, struggling to get to the next great thing, to get to that next step, because ultimately life is a struggle. There's nothing in life that's easy. So why not, through the journey of this tough, crazy life, make it easier on yourself and more enjoyable for yourself by just tapping into the things that you love doing. And forget the noise of you're too old, or that's ridiculous, or that's immature. Throw that out, man. Listen to the inner child in you and go back into those things that you love doing. Take yourself out on a date every week to go to a movie, or to go to the drum store, or music store, or a toy store, or a hobby shop, or the park that has a big hill somewhere and roll down the hill. I don't know. Do something that you used to love to do when you were a kid. It's priceless, really. To get back in touch with that stuff and enjoy it, and it'll just aliven and awaken you even more and more and more. And as an actor, if you're an actor out there listening, I absolutely encourage you as an artist to tap into those things. As an artist, you should be fearless. You should be able to do anything and everything. If you're afraid to tap into being a child, you need to go study at the Groundlings or some comedy store, acting workshop, where you're going to be forced to tap into that stuff, and it's going to be eye-opening for you. It's going to be life-changing for your work, and it's just going to make you all that much more of a fun, better, improved person. So with that said, and by the way, this was all for anybody out there. This isn't just for actors. This is for anybody out there in any profession. Everything I said literally applies to your life. No matter what you do in life, no matter where you live, no matter what your circumstances are, you can always tap into your imagination. You can always tap into these things that you love to do and just relive it in your mind. If you can't physically get it, just relive it in your mind. Close your eyes and just remember those moments, and then allow your imagination to go wherever it's going to go from there. It's so much fun. You're like creating your own movie, if you will, by just closing your eyes and just imagining the beginnings of what you loved doing, and then just let your imagination go wherever it's going to go. Another thing I encourage you guys to do is listen to some great music. Music can be very motivating. Classical music, jazz, anything that gets you motivated and excited to do something great with your life. A big motivator for me too was upgrading my wardrobe, buying better quality clothes, having suits fitted for me. That just changed. When you look in yourself in the mirror, when you're wearing really good quality clothing, really nice brand clothing, it automatically does something to you. At least it did to me, where I looked in the mirror and I'm like, damn, I look like a very successful business person. I feel very different in my own skin now because of these clothes. I want to carry that with me when I go to work, or when I go to acting class, or when I go to an audition, or when I show up on movie set, even though they're going to put me in something else to wear in the movie. I want to show up looking my best because I feel like I am in control of myself. Your stature, your posture just automatically changes when you wear nicer clothes. When you're sitting in a chair humped over and you're at your desk at whatever, if you're at a desk job, sit up tall, chest out, shoulders back, stand up straight. You're automatically, your demeanor, your energy is going to automatically shift to a better place where you feel more in control of your circumstances and of yourself and of your environment, just by simply changing your posture. Not only is it good for your back and your posture, but it's good for your mental capacity too. You're just gonna carry yourself better, and people are gonna notice. Your boss might notice, like, Wilk is standing up straight today. All right. And they're going to kind of have a little bit more of a respect for you without maybe even realizing it, simply because you're carrying yourself better, or you're wearing articles of clothing that fit you better or look better or make you more presentable or more approachable. These are things that matter, because the ultimate line is, yes, you want to be happy with yourself, but we live in a world where we live with other people. And unfortunately, maybe for many people that don't like to be in environments where you're around a lot of people, but unfortunately we are, you have to make the best of your environment. So, I just think that presenting yourself better will help motivate you and get you in a better positive place, and your colleagues will notice and they'll comment, and you're going to strike up a conversation because of the way you look. They're going to strike it up probably, and you're going to have this better experience in your work environment. And before you know it, you might have some friends, and it's just a whole different world now, simply because you've decided to make some small changes for yourself that have led to much bigger outcomes that you didn't expect. Getting into the gym, oh my gosh, staying in shape. Your health, by the way, is way more important than making money, because you only get one life in this lifetime. Anybody can go out there and make $1 million and then die of a heart attack at 35, right? Why work so hard to make all that money if you're not going to take care of yourself? What's the point? If you want to make $1 million and live a great life, you got to be in the gym and take care of yourself, because if you're taking care of yourself, yourself's going to take care of you. Your health's going to take care of you, and you want that. If you're going to be working so hard and making money and you want to live a good life, it starts with being in the gym and taking good care of yourself. And by the way, if you haven't watched my third podcast about health and wellness and being in the gym, definitely watch that, because that I give so much information on nutrition, supplements, and my own workout program, why I do what I do, why health is so important. But literally, your health is way more important. It's number one. Taking care of yourself is number one, more than making money. Your health is so important. So I encourage you guys, if you're not out there in the gym working out, start to, but definitely watch my third podcast to really understand the importance of it and the right course of action to doing it, all right? Because that's very important. You don't want to just dive on the deep end. You're going to injure yourself, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and you're just going to really set yourself back. So please listen to podcast 3 if health and wellness is something that you're not doing but you want to do. You should do. I encourage all of you to do it. Make the time. We all have 24 hours in our day, every single day. It's a matter of what we do with it. So, all right, guys, with that said, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you have any comments or questions, please write them in the comment section here. And thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you next time.